Nehru was open for an idea of military applications too. We had heavy international collaboration to begin with, from 1940s to 1950s, 1960s. We had international collaboration from the United Kingdom, Canada, and America. It all stopped in the 1974 nuclear test called Smiling Buddha. The Americans thought we converted some of the uranium they given to us, we enriched the uranium and made into a bomb. So the entire global world has shut down on India's nuclear program. And it happened again in 1998, the second nuclear test. So with the two tests, we started this entirely in a program with international collaboration. But subsequently, two tests, 1994, 1998, we completely have been tracked from the international collaboration. So the whole program became completely inward, secretive, and manipulative to the select bunch of bureaucrats, authentic bureaucrats in Delhi. I would say that because if we have pursued a program with a peaceful application in mind, we would have been an excellent example in openness in nuclear decision making. But that has not been the case because of the nuclear test. Because we all know that we have military applications too. The entire program becomes very secretive, very manipulative, and the whole exercise in nuclear energy development is linked with the question of nuclear bomb. If you look at the second point on the nuclear decision making, historically, because the structure we created as Prime Minister is the de facto Minister for Nuclear, there is no parliamentary accountability in terms of nuclear decision making. Atomic Energy Commission headed by the Secretary of Department of Energy is the whole nuclear policy making body. They undertake all activities in terms of nuclear policy. Parliamentary approval is required only in terms of budget approval. That too, in terms of budget approval, there is hardly any discussion. Only it's been approved by the Parliament. So my point again is that the whole nuclear energy establishment has been centralized in Delhi in terms of decision making. So that centralization also costed the whole issue of transparency and accountability in decision making. Third issue is the argument of nuclear power expansion. We started again the entire nuclear energy program in 1950s with the intent of having at least 20 to 25% of the total mix from nuclear. We haven't achieved because the technological challenges so much. Indian scientists could not break through. Because internationally, if you look at nuclear technology, it's always done with international collaboration. You have succeeded, Canada succeeded, France succeeded. Of course, all they have is all international collaboration. India was in isolation because of the 1974 test. And we couldn't achieve the target set by the Department of Atomic Energy. So even today, we have only 4% of the total mix from nuclear. And one of the arguments now is that the post-liberalization, we need power, economy is booming, we have huge population. If you look at the figures by the Goldman Sachs, it says that by 2030, it will be the largest in terms of population. And if you again look at economic development in terms of GDP, it will be the third largest by 2030. So the argument is that if you have high population, if you have economic development going at the largest pace, we need power. And the argument against having larger renewable energy is completely different. It's statistically proved that coal will not last for more than 30 or 40 years. Even if we import coal, there are highly expensive coal, very difficult to get coal from abroad. In terms of renewable energy, hydro, equal issues are there in terms of hydro. If you want to build dams, there are issues in terms of displacement, all sort of issues are there. And if you look at renewable is one option one could pursue, but again, it should be pursued along with other options, which includes nuclear. If you look at a small example in terms of the land requirements for renewable, the data which we have from the Planning Commission and others shows that for 1 megawatt of wind, we need close to around 2.5 acre of land, and for solar, we need 4.5 acre. So if you look at the land requirement of renewable, it's humongous. It's very difficult to expand the kind of energy we need in terms of nuclear. The advantage of nuclear here would be, with a smaller area, we could have larger capacity reactors. And how are we going to, achieve targets by around 20-25%? The post-interuse nuclear deal, we are again in nuclear commerce with the international community. We have already started importing uranium in large quantities. Most of the nuclear power plants which are running at below par capacity now are expanded capacity, reached almost close to 80%. And suppose the deal, we have given at least 5 or 6 sites to international vendors. To make a point here, these sites are not at all decided based on a public participation. Has not been decided at the level of state government. It's largely decided at the Atomic Energy Commission level. We have one in Kudankulam, we have one in Jaitapur, we have Madhya Pradesh, Gujarat, West Bengal. West Bengal, interestingly, has decided not to have nuclear power, so they have withdrawn the whole nuclear power project. My fourth issue is that movements against nuclear power or for nuclear power. Historically, if you look at the pre-expansion phase, there's hardly much nuclear movements against nuclear power. So if it was there, it was localized and to a limited extent. And the movement was largely in the context of environmental impact assessment. And the interesting point one should understand is that if you look at parallelly, if you look at the whole issue of development of coal-based power plants and hydro power plants, those are largely in the remote parts of India, in terms of forests, if you look at coal, tribal areas. So the movements could not push forward to its logical end. But if you look at nuclear interestingly needs a large amount of fresh water. It has to be near the sea or near the freshwater lakes. So it has to be near the high habitation areas. So having said that, automatically people who are living close by, near the seaside, you have a lot of habitation. So we have major issues in terms of people reacting to nuclear power. One important point here is if we look at the whole debate of nuclear power against on the question of nuclear bomb, the government has convinced us having a nuclear bomb is patriotic, and it has been raised to the level of nationalism. So it should have a nuclear bomb for your own self-defense. But in terms of nuclear power, government couldn't able to convince us that it is patriotic, largely because the direct effects people had with this nuclear power plant. And we drafted a somewhat comprehensive law in place. How did the public react to the whole expansion plan? One, public even now today believe nuclear power is equated to bomb. It could be an argument, but it can be some way a misconceived argument too. Second, the whole issue of Fukushima happened has really ignited the minds of people that something is really terribly wrong with nuclear power. And third, the whole issue of environmental impact. How will it impact environment, the livelihood of people? I'll just take another 5 minutes in terms of Kudankulam power project. Kudankulam, we have a Russian collaboration exercise. We have currently 1,000 megawatt in 2 power plants, close to 2,000 megawatt power plants coming in Kudankulam. Kudankulam is the southern tip of Kerala. It's very close to Kerala and it's in Tamil Nadu. And the expansion program they envisage is to have 6,000 megawatts. The area is close to 500 acres of land. In that area, they believe they could have 6,000 megawatt of power plant. That's major. No doubt, something goes from the whole south, it's in trouble, including Sri Lanka. Apprehensions of society is largely based on 2 factors, because it is largely fish. Largely fishing community lives there. They believe the fishing will come down, the quality of fish will come down, and there will be a radiation effect. There could be medical complications. And what was the response of the state? Public has been genuine, because everyone has a concern, because whether it's safe, whether radiation could affect us, whether the environment living around can impact. There was genuine concern. How has the state responded? State has been very aggressive, saying that there are scientific answers. The problem is state, they are giving everything in scientific terms. And the whole answers are in scientific nature. Hardly we see any political discourse in terms of nuclear energy development. If you look at the stand of all the political parties, I could not distinguish any party except maybe 1 or 2 that I'm convinced that they're all for nuclear power. My last observation is the whole question of perception risk. Because since I've been working with this for the last 3 or 4 years, there is a distinct difference in perception and risk. We all perceive nuclear energy is risky, but that's in terms of risk, whether is it perceived as a risk? scientifically the answer could be no. That's how the Department of Atomic Energy has been trying to convince us, including me, for several years. But there are concerns. Concerns has been, after Fukushima, the important point here, Japan is one of the most industrial states. The quality of engineering is world class. The professional centers, the work culture is none best in the world. It could happen to them. It could very well happen to India in terms of our kind of work culture. Post Fukushima, the entire agitation intensified in terms of Kudankulam. Again, this has been reported widely too. There are three major reasons why Kudankulam became a hotspot post Fukushima. First, Fukushima happened. Third, before commissioning the nuclear power plant, what they normally do is that they generate steam. Steam makes huge sound. So it's like an explosion. So it happened just before the commissioning. And third, they undertook a disaster management exercise. And all scientists came with a mask and were telling people to evacuate. All sort of things happened. It was an exercise. So all three, to my understanding, all three combined together formed a major issue in terms of public perception. I ended the whole question of whether is it reconcilable between the state and society. I would say it's the rigid position of the both. It's going to be very difficult for either community, either state or the civil society to reconcile this. The community is very clear that they don't want nuclear power. State is very clear they will go ahead with nuclear power. It's a position, it's been very rigid. The topic is a viable way forward. It's very difficult to have a viable way forward in terms of the position. Going against the whole concept of NGOs, that is a completely and ill-conceived notion of going against NGOs. Of course, foreign funding could be one thing, but the whole concept of safety has not been addressed. They are all talking about foreign funding of NGOs, but the whole issue of safety has still not been addressed as far as the perception is. I'll stop there. Thank you.
Though it has been pointed out yesterday that this is converted into seminar and it is continuing to be a seminar rather than the workshop, I just would like to sort of touch upon Dr. Ram Mohan. Your presentation hardly peripherally touched the movement, the theme of the workshop or the seminar. And you have brought in the same kind of contradictions and stereotyping which have been going on from the inception of this. Nothing new or nothing sort of a critical about those things. You have said that peaceful. What do you mean by peaceful in nuclear? Nuclear physicists themselves have said that there is nothing like peaceful in nuclear programs. All nuclear activities, beginning with the uranium mining to the waste disposal of the 8 states, they are inherently violent. Yes, civilian, military, yes, not peaceful. All nuclear programs are inherently violent. They are nothing like peaceful. Number one. Regarding another thing is you are factually not correct with respect to the contribution of the nuclear energy. According to the February 2012 figures, it is 2.65%, not 4%. 2.65% is the contribution of the nuclear electricity to the overall electricity generated in the state. And you have said that the state is responding in terms of the scientific aspect. I have been continuously, keenly observing this thing, that it is not addressing in terms of scientific aspect. Most of the scientific issues are addressed by the movements. Another thing is that the movement has a history, goes back to the 1960s onwards, including Kudankulam movement. It is not a response to Fukushima. It has a 15-year history. It is a different thing that media has not focused. Media started focusing in the post-Fukushima incident. It goes back to the George Charkhandi organization against radiation from the uranium mining onwards. So, the publication of article, 2-page article in the Hindu by the Abdul Kalam, it has not raised any scientific issue at all. In fact, throughout the world over, today nuclear science establishments are talking about the 4th generation nuclear reactors without addressing the issues of 1st generation nuclear reactors. Okay, and what Abdul Kalam, nothing scientific about it. They are saying that 200 crores should be given. You develop the post office, you develop the hospitals, you provide the education facilities for fishermen. All these are scientific issues. Nothing scientific, no scientific issues are there being addressed. And with regard to safety, I don't have a time, but I would like to quote Edward Teller, president of American Nuclear Science Association, who happened to be part of the Manhattan Project. In the late 70s, he has said that somebody who talks about foolproof in the nuclear area, he is more fool than proof. There would be more fool than the proof. So these are said by the nuclear physicists themselves. Okay, and Fukushima is one thing, but you have number of accidents taking place world over, but only 4 of them were highlighted, including within India. The movements are there in Jharkhand, movements are there in Jaitapur, movements are there in Kaiga, movements are there in Andhra Pradesh, different. So you not touch the movements, you just sort of peripherally raise the issue. And scientific aspects I am talking about, Jaitapur, the French Avera nuclear reactors which are going to come, if at all the state succeeds. I don't think it would succeed because the massive movement there. See, French Avera nuclear reactors are not tested anywhere in the world. Not even in France. And we have the experience of the Bhopal, a redundant technology in France, assembled in Bhopal, and we see the consequences. So this nearly 2,000 megawatts each, nowhere such a kind of a nuclear reactor is there. So what they are trying to do is convert that area into guinea pigs. So, and movement is raising the scientific issues, and I am neither the nuclear establishment. In fact, if you see the website of the Department of Atomic Energy, there is a contradiction. They have 2 documents on their website. One talks about indigenous development. The other talks about the foreign. There is a contradiction. There is a contradiction. So hence, what I am trying to say is that you also said that it is not possible to sort of reconcile. It is possible, but state is not open. State is not open for a dialogue itself. And what it's trying to do is, it is using all kinds of, as you rightly said, nuclear thing is considered as very sacred, and it should be talked by only experts. And nuclear establishment is full of Iyengars. Who are highest, then comes the Iyengar. This I am not saying, this is said by an Iyer, who was AERB chairman, resigned, raising 123 questions about the safety. I am talking about Gopalakrishnan. Okay, with the Iyer, he said this is what he has said. So, and it is sacred, and that is what is happening is that there is a foreign hand. If the foreign hand is there in terms of developing the technology, why can't civil society cannot have a foreign collaboration, even in terms of the globalized networking? Nothing wrong in getting support from Germany or any other country, kind of this thing. I just stop here.